All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tears in Tulle Talk, a podcast that's dedicated to reconnecting with your magic from within the darker parts of life. I am so excited to have with us today an original Tears in Tulle movement participant. Her name is Julie Slaikjer, and I would love to hear a little bit more about you, Julie.
Well, hi, I'm Julie, and I go by Julie Chats online. My last name is Danish, and it's really hard to pronounce, and I like to talk a lot, so it's a lot easier to kind of, go by something else. So I am a branding and PR coach. I live just outside Portland, Oregon. I'm right down the street from Nike. That's kind of where we're known for being. And I really like sharing everything that's bright and colorful with my clients and people everywhere. I've taught art in my kids' schools and projects in a scrapbook store. And so I just like combining colors. That's one of the things I'm known for, color mixing. So it's just really fun. I was really excited to be asked to wear the skirt. It was so much fun.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, I follow your Instagram account and it's always so colorful and brings me joy. So thank you for doing your thing and being who you are and showing up to sort of spread rainbow magic everywhere.
You're welcome.
So we start every episode of this podcast with a Tears in Tulle moment. And so we're calling those the even when, especially thens. And for anyone who's just learning about the Tears in Tulle movement, it follows a rainbow tulle skirt to the homes of 52 women in 52 weeks across the United States and Canada, each woman pairing that rainbow skirt with something black to represent her ability to reconnect with her magic from within the darker parts of life. And each woman tells their story. So that movement has grown into sort of a global celebration with Tears in Tulle Trailblazers and Tears in Tulle Tribes, which are women sharing their own skirts and stories. So yeah, it's evolving in really cool ways. And so these Tears in Tulle moments, what you're about to tell us, are at the heart of what this movement is all about, showing up when things aren't perfect. So I know that I had reached out to you ahead of time and asked you what your even when, especially then, was. So I would love to hear what that Tears in Tulle moment is, Julie.
I would say that I went over a few because it's kind of one of those things once you start diving into it that it's, oh, wow, yeah, I have a few. And I would say I settled on, I'm optimistic even when I can't see the light.
Oh.
And there are just so many things recently where it's hard to see where the light is going to come from, when things will end, when things will become a new normal. And I have really concentrated on being optimistic and knowing that everything's going to be okay, even if it's different than it was before.
Yes. I think that's so important right now. There's so much negative press that's happening. It's, I think, more important than ever that we show the positive side of things too. So I want to talk about your experience with the skirt, because the photos, when you first sent the photos to me, I was like, oh my gosh, she's in like a t-shirt in one picture, and then there's the snow in the background, and it was just such a contrast. It reminded me so much of Tears in Tulle, like having the color and then this sort of magical background, and then you just owning in the VIP shirt that you wore. I mean, it was, they were just so relatable, like, oh my gosh, she's out there doing it. And I would love to hear about your experience with the skirt. I know a lot of participants have said it was even magical from when it opened, like that it fit in the box. So I would love to hear what your experience was with the skirt.
It exploded out of the box. It was great just seeing it and just kind of unwrapping all of the colors and seeing all the colors in there. And I had an idea that I knew that I would be getting the skirt in the winter. And I was hoping in Portland, we never know. We either have like a foot of snow for 2 weeks or we get none all year. And of course, this was a none all year time. So I have a friend who's a really great photographer. And I said, hey, I don't know when I'm going to be getting this skirt exactly, but will you come take pictures? And so she said, well, I love taking pictures at it's Pittock Mansion outside of Portland, where it was an original publisher of the Oregonian newspaper, and they dress it up for different times of the year, and you can go in and have tours, but a lot of people have pictures outside and around on the grounds. And oh, by the way, she took 500 pictures that day.
Oh, send them all to me.
It was amazing. So I decided first that I couldn't decide which shirt to wear, and I had the VIP t-shirt, and that was from a talk when I was at PlannerCon that Teresa Collins Weber speaks on positivity and being the VIP of your own life. And so we all had these shirts. And I've worn the shirt a few times. I went to Costco the other day with my mask on, and it was making people smile or just wondering what I was the VIP of. And I just love it because it's more about, of course, you're the VIP because it's your life and you're the most important person. And so I thought, gosh, I should really wear this shirt with the skirt. And so I wore it. And I've always been the kind of person where I really worried about other people's opinions a lot and what other people were going to think, and didn't really, I mean, even though I feel like I'm an outside the box person, when I would be in public or talking, I didn't want to stand out too much or be too different. And wearing the skirt was really, I mean, there is no way to like throw yourself into the fire of people giving you attention than to wear that in public with people just wandering around, because every picture there were people there. I think the picture that I sent from that was actually it was like in the parking lot of this place. And so there were a few other ones, and there was a man who came by, and my friend caught the photo of him, and he was just smiling. He's like, that's just glorious that you're doing this. And they stopped to talk to me, and some people took pictures, and it was an experience. At first it made me really nervous to think and anxious that people were putting me in their camera. And then I kind of was like, that's awesome. They think it's cool. They want to share it with people. I mean, who cares? So as the day went on, I got more and more comfortable wearing it. And so I'm glad we started where we did, because then we got in the car and we drove up to Mount Hood, which is it's like an hour from Portland. And we were driving up these hills, and people were coming down in traffic from skiing that day. And so there's a huge turnout where people put chains on their car, and Susan says, stop here. And I was like, that's not what we talked about. We had this plan that we were going to do. She goes, no, this is it. You have to do this. And so we stop and we pull over, and there were other cars. It's like a viewpoint of these gorgeous trees covered with snow, and it looks back down toward Portland. And she's like, climb up there.
Wow.
Oh, so we're climbing up on the cement barrier that's stopping all of the stuff from, going down into the canyon. And there was about 2 feet of dirt on the other side of me before it just went down. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of hard to move in. So I had my Converse on, and she's like, okay, well, I'm going to pick it up. You're going to stand up there, and I'm going to put it back. And as we're doing this, cars are stopping, people are taking pictures, and it's a huge curve. And all the cars that were coming started honking.
I love this.
And it was this like magical thing, and all across were all these trees, and I love the trees covered in snow. That's one of my favorite things. And so they're on all these mountains, and I just thought it would be really fun to have the skirt in the snow. I didn't really know what was going to happen. And so I climbed up and stood on it, and she arranged it and took all these pictures and kept telling me to move. And I was like, okay, well, it was frozen into the ground. We had to pour warm water on it to get the tool out of the snow, because I was standing on it, but I didn't know it. And so, yeah, but it was just that thing where suddenly you're the center of attention and you didn't realize it. And there were people just speeding down the mountain. And I could just imagine that they're coming around this corner and there's this crazy lady in this huge skirt standing on the edge of a cliff. So it was it was one of those things that was like really magical. And then we drove up past the ski area and kind of like to the back of the mountain a little bit. And we stopped at this kind of snow park area where people take their kids to go sledding. And there was a beautiful area down in the trees where she said, take it and hike down there.
Wow.
And she had brought a jacket that had fur that looked like a cheetah. And she's like, wear this, go down there. And there were just a bunch of different pictures that, when I looked through them, it was really hard to decide which ones to send because there were just so many. And it was that thing, there were people there was little kids who were there and they were like, Mommy, look, do you see that skirt? Look at that lady. She looks like a princess, and so it's just this feeling that that's a kind of a once in a lifetime thing, I think.
Oh my gosh, what an adventure. I'm happy you shared your story. Like, I could just picture it, like in my own imagination, these cars coming around and this, you standing there in this, just beautiful rainbow skirt. And I love it. Thank you. That's
it was definitely, when I got home, I thought, wow, it took a little while to think about it. And then she had to get me the pictures and then I had to go through the pictures and I just kept looking at them and going, wow, that's,
wow. Well, thank you. I'm like tearing up over here.
I know, it kind of gets me a little too.
Yes, I knew a couple parts from the story from what you had wrote, but I didn't know the full story. So very, very cool. And that has me thinking about what you did write on the for the Tears and Tulle sort of essay portion of what you submitted to us. And you had talked about how you're finally at a point where you're coming out of the shadows. That sticks out to me. You wrote so many beautiful things, but you also talked about how you loved rainbows so much when you were growing up. And so I would love to just hear a little bit more about that coming out of the shadows, how you're feeling, presently, and no pressure to come up with anything special. It's just you talking about your experience with the skirt. Just that was the first thing that popped into my head, was what you had written about the shadows and about rainbows and about your resistance to pair it with something black at first, and then how you sort of settled into that, and the pictures are glorious. So I would love to just hear your thoughts a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because when I did hear about it, there was just something that stood out when I read and you said combine it with something black, and I thought, oh gosh, I wouldn't do that. That's just not me. I try to wear bright colors. I wear lots of white. I do wear black, but I don't know why it stood out to me that I wouldn't want to mix those things together. But it was kind of funny as I thought about it more, and I did something that I had never done before during this process. And I had this astrology reading, and it was amazing. And she talked a lot. I'm a Leo person, and everyone says they're the people that love the spotlight, and but I've never felt totally comfortable in the spotlight. And it was funny, when I had this reading, she talked about different things that were there, and that there was something blocking my wanting to come out and be in the spotlight. And I was shocked.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you for a second. Was this before you got the skirt or after?
Before.
Okay.
It was before. It was months before, and it just it sat with me for a while, but I didn't really think about it a lot. And then the whole experience with the skirt I got art with this astrology reading, and it shows the different place where the sun is for Leo, and that there were these other planets in there. And she talked to me about it, and there were things I hadn't known before. And when I thought about it, and after I took, and when I started looking at the pictures and really thinking about the experience that I'd had, I thought, oh my gosh, that really relates to what she was talking about. Because I've always been a person that I didn't really I wanted people to know my opinions always. I'm a talker, but I didn't want to do that in kind of a public way, or stand up in front of people and have them all look at me while they told them my opinion.
Well, that has changed.
And it kind of, it's sort of like it all magically mixed together. And it just kind of made me realize that it's okay. There's nothing to be afraid of. You can put yourself out there, and, and really, some people won't like you. And some people don't like the things that you do for your business. And I've kind of always known that part about business, but I didn't really kind of relate it to my own life. But yeah, some people aren't going to like you, but a lot of people are. And by saying your opinions, you'll find a lot more people who are your people. And maybe those other people will move on and find someone else that they agree more with. And that's great. It just leaves you with more of your people in your, little sphere to talk to or to be friends with, or, and it just, that whole experience just reminded me of that. And it was okay to get out there and put myself out there in front of people.
Yes. While you're saying all this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like that skirt moment, like, you came full circle with the reading then. And it reminds me of this Glennon Doyle quote that I recently read. I actually have it pasted above where my computer is. And it says, you're going to be too much for some people. Those aren't your people. So what you're saying, oh my gosh, it reminds me so much of that quote, and how you're just owning it, even though, there might be some people who don't quite get it. And not everyone's going to get a rainbow tulle skirt and understand the meaning behind it. But if you look at all those people that were saying things to you and taking pictures and coming around the mountain, there's so many people out there that can relate to wanting to reconnect with that magic. So thank you for sharing that with everybody.
Yes, I really think that at the end of that, I thought, you know what? All of those people went home with this crazy memory to tell other people, and it made people smile and be happy. And, even if I didn't have an epiphany wearing it, it really brought a lot of other people joy. And I could tell from, just everyone was very happy when they saw it. There wasn't anyone who said, oh gosh, why would you wear that in public? Or, something like that. All of those things that you might think before you do something that seems a little bit scary. People were all really awesome.
That's awesome. I think that we sometimes feel like we need some kind of permission to really stand in that space. And something about that skirt, I don't know what it is, but it took me several months before I figured out I wasn't supposed to hang on to it. It was supposed to go out and visit other people. But there's something about that skirt that just like gives you the ultimate permission to just own that color and own that energy. And so I just love hearing the stories about you connecting with people and, them sort of having a similar feeling maybe, or an experience just based on you wearing it. Super cool.
Yeah. It was great.
So I am wondering who is inspiring you these days, who in the world might be inspiring you. And then I also like to ask this question. I like to know what our participants wanted to be when they were small, and if any of that's connected. And for you, I know that some of that is connected because I saw the story about your mom sewing you all the different, or creating all these different colors for you with your bedding, and how connected you felt to rainbows. So that shows up so much in your brand and who you are that I can't help but think that it's connected to your childhood in some ways. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I think that in the past few years, I've really been inspired listening. I've worked at the PlannerCon events for people who use paper planners, and we have conventions for people to come to, but a lot of it is speakers who are women who are uh, own creative businesses, and they come and they speak about, it's really encouraging as a business owner to hear other women talk about their stories. And I'd mentioned my shirt was from Teresa Collins Weber. She is an amazing speaker who talks a lot about empowerment, and she's a great lady. I've become friends with her, and just she is what she says out loud. And she has a subscription box that, and I've been getting that, and she has 2 books, and so I've really been reading her books. And it's funny that you mentioned Glennon, because I'm reading her latest book right now.
Untamed.
And the color, I was like, oh, I have to read it just because the cover is awesome. But yeah, just really in the way she writes, I like it because it's very relatable. And yeah, I feel like I could highlight every part, that every part is a quote worth typing up and hanging on my wall.
Yes.
And so it's just really important for me to be surrounded by people and listen to podcasts. I listen to Hillary Rushford, who's also talks to women entrepreneurs, and just about more people who do things with kindness, who care about their impact in the world and want people to know that you can be yourself and you can have a business. I've been listening to a lot of those podcasts recently, reading books. It's funny because when I was a kid, you were talking about, I had a square pillow for 6 colors of the rainbow on my bed. And I was very specific. It had to be yellow, orange, red, I think purple, blue, green. There was something, I decided that was the order they had to be in. And then in 7th grade science, they told us the Roy G. Biv, and that it was actually red, orange, yellow, and the indigo was in there. So there was color I didn't know about. But still, to me, I always think of the rainbow as the 6 basic colors. And color was always a big thing for me. I started photography about the same time that I learned about the 7 colors of the rainbow. And of course, back then it was black and white photography and darkroom. And over the years, I was always involved in yearbook, and design to me and the mixing of colors is really important. When I worked at the scrapbook store, I was the person who walked people around and picked out colors to go with paper. And I think when I learned about photography, I really wanted to be a National Geographic photographer.
Oh, cool.
Because I thought that you should travel and take lots of pictures of really cool stuff. And then when I ended up graduating from high school, I did study journalism. My school did not have photojournalism as a major, but I took all the photography classes that I could. And just photography and keeping your memories has always been important to me. So I take a lot of pictures. I think I probably have like 12,000 on my camera, on my phone.
I'm guilty too. So many.
So yeah, it's really important to me to be able to carry those memories and share them with other people. I've loved Instagram since it started because it's my most favorite form of social media, because I can scroll and see people's gorgeous pictures. And now I'm learning more about, reading the stories behind them too. But what always catches me is the visual part. And that's one thing that I love in my business is helping people talk about color and the meaning and the feelings that colors create. So I think that I didn't exactly stick with my being a National Geographic photographer, but I feel like part of what I do is helping people create the feelings in their, in your customers, if you're a business. So you want people to feel a certain way after they work with you, and there are colors that can help lead them down that path. And that's one thing that I work on with my clients on. And I end up with, it's funny because people are attracted to certain kinds of designers, and most of the people that I work with want bold colors and graphics in their logos, and it just kind of is one of those things. And someone asked me about my style about it, and I think that it has more to do with the colors and really putting out there your brand. And so that's just the part that I like to help people with. So I feel like it kind of all goes together, but in a windy path.
Oh yes, can definitely see that with the National Geographic photographer and how you've traveled and taken, the whole thing. It just makes sense. So why don't you tell listeners where they can find you? Where would be a good place to go online to check out more of what you're doing?
Well, I am Julie Chats everywhere. I love to stay on Instagram. I love Instagram messages. I've been really using stories a lot during this time, because I feel like it's important to show what's going on in your life and what you're working on in your business, because we're kind of all living that at the same time right now.
Yes.
And so I have the Julie Chats community on Facebook, is my Facebook group, and my website is juliechats.com. I have a new newsletter I'm sending out now that you can subscribe to at the bottom of that page, and each month is going to be a new theme that we're talking about, and this month we're talking about Instagram. So I've got Instagram on the brain this month.
Very cool. All right. Well, I can't believe we're at time already. It has been so nice chatting with you and getting to learn more about your Tears and Tulle experience. And we will all see you online. Thank you, Julie.
Well, thank you so much. It was great talking to you. I love sharing about this. And thank you for the opportunity to participate with the skirt. It was a magical experience.
Oh, thank you so much.